back to Storytime with YDRC. Today we're actually going to be continuing to read Warriors Fire and Ice because we left off last time on a pretty big cliffhanger and I don't want to leave it off there for today. So as always, before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, such as this one. Alright, so let's get started. Chapter 26. Now last time, Broken Star just entered the ThunderClan camp. So, now, Fireheart, who's the only warrior left in the camp, along with the elders and the other cats in the camp, have to defend the camp. So, let's get started. Yellowfang, Dustpaw, and Sandpaw rushed forward in a defensive row, and the queens lined up behind them. Fireheart saw Cinderpaw hobbing to join them, but Dustpaw spat angrily at the small gray cat as she neared, and Cinderpaw scrabbled clumsily away, ears flat, back into Yellowfang's den. The elders grabbed the kits, bundled them into the nursery, and squeezed inside after them. Brindleface picked up Cloud Kit in her jaws and pushed him in last. She tugged at the brambles with her paws, ignoring the thorns, and covered the entrance before turning to join the rest of her clan in the clearing. Fireheart leaped down from the high rock and raced to Yellowfang's side. He arched his back and hissed at Broken Star. "You lost the last time we fought. You'll lose again." "Never," Broken Star spat back. "You might have taken my clan away from me, but you can't kill me. I have more lives than you." "One ThunderClan life is worth 10 of yours," Fireheart growled. He gave a worried yowl, and the clearing exploded into battle. Fireheart leaped straight for Broken Star and grasped the dark brown tabby with his claws. Life as an outlaw had treated the former clan leader harshly. Fireheart could feel the ribs of the flea-bitten Tom beneath his fur, but Broken Star was still strong. He twisted around and sank his teeth into Fireheart's hind leg. Fireheart yowled and hissed with rage, but kept his grip. Broken Star struggled forward, scrabbling with his paws on the frozen ground. Fireheart felt his claws raking along Broken Star's bony flanks as the rogue warrior ripped himself free. Fireheart lunged after him, but the other claws were grasping at his hind leg. He looked over his shoulder to see who it was. Clawface crouched there, staring at Fireheart with narrowed, mocking eyes. Fireheart looked back at him in disbelief. He had never expected to see this cat again. He forgot Broken Star instantly. It was Clawface who had killed Spotted Leaf 6 moons ago. He had murdered the ThunderClan medicine cat in cold blood so that Broken Star could steal Frostfur's kits. Rage roared in Fireheart's ears. As he twisted around and threw himself on top of the scrawny brown Tom, Fireheart glimpsed a flash of tortoiseshell fur out of the corner of his eye, and the sweet scent of Spotted Leaf hit the roof of his mouth. He felt her spirit beside him. She had come to help him avenge her death. Fireheart hardly noticed the pain in his leg, and as he tore it free from Clawface's grasp and flew at him. The Tom reared up and flailed his wide front paws. Thorn-sharp claws caught Fireheart behind his ear. Pain ripped through them like fire, and he staggered. Clawface was on him in an instant, pinning Fireheart to the ground and sinking his teeth into the back of his neck. Fireheart screeched in agony. "Help me, Spotted Leaf! I can't do it!" Suddenly, the weight was wrenched off of his back. Fireheart sprang to his paws and spun around. "Graystripe!" The gray warrior stood motionless, his eyes filled with horror. Clawface's body hung limply from his jaws. Graystripe opened his mouth, and Clawface fell to the ground dead. Fireheart took a step forward. "He killed Spotted Leaf, Graystripe!" This was no time for remorse. "Is Blue Star with you?" he went on urgently. Graystripe shook his head. "She sent me back to fetch Tiger Claw," he replied. "We found bones." Blue Star recognized Broken Star's stench and guessed he might be leading the rogue cats. A hiss sounded nearby, and 2 cats crashed into Fireheart. He leaped out of the way, and it was Frostfur battling with another of the attacking cats. The Queen was fighting with all the power of StarClan. These were the cats who had stolen her kits. Hate shone in her eyes as she struggled. Fireheart held himself back. Frostfur didn't need his help. A moment later, the rogue warrior was sent screeching screeching away through the bracken camp wall. Frostfur chased after him, but Fireheart called her back. "You have given him enough wounds to remember you." The queen skidded to a halt by the bracken wall and turned, her sides heaving and her white fur stained with her enemy's blood. Another rogue warrior screeched past Fireheart and headed for the camp wall. Dustpaw chased after him and managed to give the mottled tabby a fierce bite before he let him scrabble out of the camp. Only Broken Star and one warrior left, Fireheart thought. Sandpaw had the rogue warrior pinned to the ground. The Tom was lying motionless beneath her. "Watch out!" thought Fireheart, remembering his favorite trick of letting an enemy think he had won. But Sandpaw was not deceived. When the Tom leaped to his paws, she was ready. She sprang off of him, then lunged, grasping the warrior with her claws to flip him over and rake his belly with her hind legs. Only when he squealed like a kit did she let go of him. The rogue tore out of the camp entrance, still wailing. There was an eerie moment of stillness. The ThunderClan cat stood in silence and stared at the blood and fur that was scattered around the clearing. In the middle lay Clawface's body. Where was Broken Star? Fireheart spun around in alarm, scanning the camp. Could he have broken into the nursery? He was about to spring toward the bramble den when a wretched howl from Yellowfang's den tore in the air. Fireheart tore across to the fern tunnel. Cinderpaw! He had raced into the den, expecting the worst, but instead saw Broken Star lying in a heap on the ground. The old medicine cat stood over him. Broken Star's eyes were closed and bloody. Fireheart saw his sides heave once and stopped moving. He recognized the deep stillness in the rogue warrior's body that Broken Star was losing a life. Yellowfang's claws were unsheathed and glistened red. Her face was twisted and her eyes glazed. Suddenly, Broken Star gasped and began to breathe again. Fireheart waited for Yellowfang to lunge at him with another killing bite. But she hesitated. Broken Star didn't get up. Fireheart ran to the medicine cat's side. Is this his last life? Why don't you finish him off? He urged. He murdered his father, banished you from her clan, and tried to kill you. It's not his last life, she rasped. And even if it were, I couldn't kill him. Why not? StarClan would honor you for it. Fireheart could not believe her words. The name Broken Star had always made this old she-cat bristle with rage. Yellowfang dragged her gaze from Broken Star and looked at Fireheart. Her eyes clouded with grief as she murmured, He is my son. Fireheart felt the ground lurch under his paws. But medicine cats are forbidden from having kids, he blurted out. I know, answered Yellowfang. I never intended to have kids, but then I fell in love with Ragged Star. Her voice was thick with sorrow. Suddenly, Fireheart thought back to the battle when Broken Star was driven out of the ShadowClan camp. Just before he fled, the cruel leader had told Yellowfang that he had murdered his father. Yellowfang had been devastated, and now Fireheart understood why. There were 3 kids in my litter, Yellowfang went on, but only Broken Star survived. I gave him to a ShadowClan queen to bring up as her own. I thought that losing 2 of my kids was punishment from the StarClan for breaking the warrior code. But I was wrong. My punishment wasn't that 2 of my kids died. It was that this one survived. Yellowfang looked in disgust at Broken Star's bleeding body. And now I cannot kill him. I must accept my fate, as StarClan wishes it. Yellowfang staggered, and Fireheart thought she was going to collapse. He pressed his body against her flank to support her and whispered, Does he know you're his mother? Yellowfang shook her head. Broken Star began to wail pitifully. I can't see! Fireheart realized with horror that the rogue cat's eyes had been scratched beyond repair. Fireheart cautiously approached him. Broken Star lay still. Fireheart poked him with a forepaw and Yellowfang's son moaned again. Don't kill me, he whined. Fireheart backed away, feeling a shudder of revulsion at the warrior's fear. Yellowfang took a deep breath. I will see to him. She walked over to her wounded son, grasped him by the scruff of his neck, and dragged him to the nest that Patchpelt had left. Fireheart let her go. He wanted to check that Cinderpaw was all right. He caught sight of a dark shape moving inside the split rock where Yellowfang slept. "Cinderpaw?" he called. Cinderpaw poked her head out. "Are you okay?" Fireheart asked. "Have the road cats gone?" she whispered. "Yes, except Broken Star. He's badly injured. Yellowfang's seeing to him." He waited for Cinderpaw's shocked reaction, but she just shook her head slowly and stared at the ground. "Are you okay?" Fireheart repeated. "I should have fought alongside you." Cinderpaw's voice was choked with shame. "You would have been killed!" "That's what Dustpaw said. He told me to go and hide with the kids." The small cat's eyes were full of despair. "But I wouldn't have minded being killed. What good am I like this? I'm just a burden on this clan." Fireheart felt a thorn-sharp pang of pity. He searched for words to comfort her, but before he could speak, Yellowfang's rasping mew sounded from the bracken. "Cinderpaw," she called, "fetch me some cobwebs, quickly." Cinderpaw turned at once and disappeared inside the rock, returning a moment later with one paw wrapped in a swathe of cobwebs. As quickly as she could, she scrambled awkwardly over to Yellowfang and thrust the cobwebs inside the nest. "Now get me some of that comfrey root," ordered Yellowfang. As Cinderpaw limped back to the split rock, Fireheart turned to leave. There was nothing more he could do here. He must find out how the rest of the clan was. Hardly any cat had moved in the camp clearing. Fireheart padded straight to Dustpaw and meowed, "Yellowfang is tending to Broken Star's wounds. Cinderpaw is helping her." He ignored Dustpaw's gasp of disbelief. "Go and guard him." Dustpaw ran to the tunnel and disappeared inside. Fireheart went over to Greystripe. The warrior was still staring at Clawface's body. "You saved my life," Fireheart murmured. "Thank you." Greystripe lifted his gaze to Fireheart. "I would give my life for you," he answered simply. Feeling choked, Fireheart watched his friend turn and walk away. Perhaps their friendship was not over after all. The sound of paws pounding through the gorse tunnel broke into his thoughts. Bluestar came rushing into the camp, followed by Longtail and Swiftpaw. Fireheart felt his shoulders droop with the relief at the sight of his clan leader. She looked around at the blood-spattered clearing, her eyes wide, until her gaze rested on Clawface's body. "Broken Star attacked?" she meowed. Fireheart nodded. "Is he dead?" "He's with Yellowfang," Fireheart answered, forcing out the words in spite of his exhaustion. "He's been wounded. His eyes." "And the other rogue warriors?" "We chased them off." "Are any of our clan badly hurt?" Bluestar demanded, looking once more around the clearing. The cats shook their heads. "Good," she meowed. "Sandpaw, Swiftpaw, take this body out of the camp and bury it. No elders need be present. No rogue deserves to be buried with the honor of the Star Clan ritual." Swiftpaw and Sandpaw began to drag Clawface toward the tunnel. "Are the elders safe?" Bluestar asked. "They're in the nursery," Fireheart told her. As he spoke, a rustling sounded from the bramble den, and Halftail appeared, followed by the other kits and elders. Fireheart saw Cloudkit tumble out and scamper excitedly across the clearing to Brindleface. She greeted him with a brisk lick, and the kit turned to watch Clawface's body as it disappeared away through the tunnel. "Is he dead?" Cloudkit asked curiously. "Can I go and see?" "Hush," whispered Brindleface, tucking her tail around him. "Where's Tigerclaw?" Bluestar asked. "He's taken a party to attack a Shadow Clan patrol," Fireheart explained. "We found bones on our patrol. They smelled of Shadow Clan, so Tigerclaw decided to attack. I sent Brackenpaw to stop him when Yellowfang realized it was Broken Star sent on them." "Brackenpaw?" meowed Bluestar, narrowing her eyes. "Even though he might have to cross the Thunder Path?" "I was the only warrior left in camp. There was no one else I could send." Bluestar nodded, the concern in her eyes giving way to understanding. "You didn't want to leave the camp unguarded?" she meowed. "You did well, Fireheart. I think Broken Star hoped to lure all our warriors away from the camp. We found bones, too." Greystripe told me. Fireheart looked around for his friend, but Greystripe had disappeared. "Send Yellowfang to me when she's finished with Broken Star," Bluestar ordered. She pricked her ears at the noise of more paws in the gorse tom. Tiger Claw came racing into camp, followed by Whitestorm and the rest of the raiding party. Fireheart craned his neck to peer around the warriors until he saw Brackenpaw right at the back. The young apprentice looked exhausted but unhurt. Fireheart let out a quiet sigh of relief. "Did Brackenpaw reach you before you found a patrol?" asked Bluestar, walking over to her deputy. "We hadn't even entered their territory," Tiger Claw answered. "We were just about to cross the Thunder Path." His eyes narrowed. Was that Clawface they were burying? Bluestar nodded. "Then Brackenpaw was right," meowed the deputy. "Brokenstar was planning to attack the camp. Is he dead too?" "No. Yellowfang is tending to his wounds." "Surely not," Mousefur exclaimed, exchanging a glance with Running Wind beside her. Tiger Claw's face darkened. "Tending to his wounds?" he snarled. "We should kill him, not waste time making him better." "We'll discuss that once I've spoken to Yellowfang," meowed Bluestar calmly. "You can discuss it with me now, Bluestar." "Oh wait, you can discuss it with me now, Bluestar." Yellowfang padded into the clearing, her head drooping with exhaustion. "Have you left Brokenstar alone?" growled Tiger Claw, his amber eyes flashing. Yellowfang raised her head and looked at the Dark Warrior. "Dustpaw is guarding him, and I've given him poppy seeds, so he'll sleep for a while. Brokenstar is blind now, Tiger Claw. There's no way he'll try to escape. He'd die of hunger in a week, if a fox or a gang of crows didn't kill him first." "Well, that makes it easier," Tiger Claw snarled. "We won't have to kill him ourselves. We can let the forest deal with him." Yellowfang turned to Bluestar. "We cannot let him die," she meowed. "Why not?" Fireheart held his breath as he watched the leader's eyes flick from Yellowfang to Tiger Claw and back again. He wondered if Yellowfang was going to tell Bluestar that Brokenstar was her son. "If we did, we would be no better than he is," replied Yellowfang calmly. Tiger Claw's tail flicked in anger. "What do you think, Whitestorm?" Bluestar meowed before Tiger Claw could speak. "It will be a burden on our clan to look after him," Whitestorm answered thoughtfully, "but Yellowfang is right. If we send him out into the forest, or kill him in cold blood, StarClan will know we have stooped as low as he." One Eye stepped forward. "Bluestar," she meowed in her croaky old voice. "In the past, we have sometimes kept prisoners for many moons. We could do it again." Fireheart remembered that Yellowfang herself had been a prisoner when she first came to the camp. He waited for the medicine cat to remind Bluestar of this, but she said nothing. "Would you really consider keeping this rogue inside our camp?" Tiger Claw's eyes blazed with rage as he challenged his leader. With a pang, Fireheart couldn't help agreeing with the Dark Warrior's words. The thought of killing Brokenstar appalled him. He knew better than any of these cats what that would mean to Yellowfang. But Brokenstar was a fearsome enemy, even without his sight. Keeping him in the camp would be difficult and dangerous for all the members of the clan. "Is he really blind?" Bluestar asked Yellowfang. "Yes, he is." "Has he other wounds?" Fireheart replied this time. "I caught him pretty badly," he admitted. He looked over to Yellowfang and was relieved when the old she-cat dipped her head just enough for him to know she forgave him for wounding her son. "How long till they heal?" asked Bluestar. "About a moon," Yellowfang answered. "Then you may nurse him till then. After that, we will discuss his future again. And from now on, he'll be known as Broken Tail, not Broken Star. We can not take away the lives that StarClan gave him, but that cat is no longer a clan leader." Bluestar looked questioningly at Tiger Claw. His tail twitched, but he didn't speak. "It is decided," Bluestar meowed. "He stays." Chapter 27. Fireheart limped over to the clump of nettles and began to lick his wounds. He would go and see Yellowfang later, when she had finished tending to the other cats. The weak rays of the setting sun threw long shadows across the clearing. Dustpaw had been relieved from his guard duty by Longtail. Tiger Claw had taken the rest of his unscathed raiding party out in search for of fresh kill. Fireheart's stomach growled. He looked up at the sound of paw steps, but it was only Sandpaw and Swiftpaw returning from their burial duty. The two cats padded over to Bluestar, who was sitting beneath the high rock with Whitestorm. Fireheart pushed himself to his paws and walked over to join them. With a flick of his tail, he beckoned to Dustpaw, who was licking his own scratches beside the tree stump. Dustpaw flashed him a doubtful look, but got up warily and followed him. "We've buried Clawface," meowed Sandpaw. "Thank you," Bluestar replied. The ThunderClan leader looked directly at Swiftpaw. "You may go." The black and white apprentice dipped his head and headed for his den. Fireheart signaled to Dustpaw again to come closer. The tabby apprentice narrowed his eyes and padded forward to stand beside Sandpaw. "Bluestar," Fireheart began hesitantly. "Sandpaw and Dustpaw fought like warriors when Broken-Tail attacked. We would have been in much more trouble without their strength and courage." Dustpaw's eyes widened and Sandpaw looked at the ground as Fireheart spoke. A purr rumbled from Whitestorm's throat. "It's not like you to be shy," he meowed to his apprentice. Sandpaw's ears twitched uncomfortably. "Fireheart's the one who saved the clan," she burst out. "He was the one who alerted the camp so that we were ready for Broken-Tail's attack." It was Fireheart's turn to feel embarrassed. He was relieved when Tigerclaw and the hunting party trotted into the camp at that moment, carrying plenty of fresh kill. Bluestar nodded at Tigerclaw and then turned to face Dustpaw and Sandpaw. "It makes me proud to know that ThunderClan has such fine warriors," she meowed. "It's time you both took your warrior names. We shall have the naming ceremony now, while the sun is setting, and then we can eat." Sandpaw and Dustpaw looked excitedly at each other. Fireheart lifted his chin and purred. Bluestar called to the clan, and Fireheart felt even happier when he saw Graystripe appear from the warrior's den. He hadn't left the camp after all. The clan gathered around the edge of the clearing. Elders and queens sat with the apprentices and kits on one side. Fireheart waited with the warriors on the other. He looked at Cloudkit nestled beside Brindleface. The kit's eyes shone with excitement, and Fireheart felt a rush of pride that his kin kit could see him sitting with the clan warriors. Bluestar stood in the center with Sandpaw and Dustpaw. The last arc of sun glowed pink on the horizon. The clan waited silently as it dipped out of sight, leaving the darkening sky prickled with stars. Bluestar looked up and fixed her eyes on the brightest star in Silverpelt. "I, Bluestar, leader of ThunderClan, call upon my warrior ancestors to look down on these two apprentices. They have trained hard to understand the ways of your code, and I commend them to you as warriors in their turn." She gazed down at the pair of young cats in front of her. "Sandpaw, Dustpaw, do you promise to uphold the warrior code and to protect and defend this clan, even at the cost of your life?" Sandpaw stared back, her eyes gleaming. "I do," she replied. Dustpaw echoed her words, his voice strong and low. "I do." "Then, by the powers of StarClan, I give you your warrior names. Sandpaw. From this moment, you will be known as Sandstorm. StarClan honors your courage and your spirit, and we welcome you as a full warrior to ThunderClan." Bluestar stepped forward and rested her muzzle on top of Sandstorm's bowed head. Sandstorm licked Bluestar's shoulder respectfully before she turned and walked toward Whitestorm. Fireheart saw her eyes flash proudly at her mentor as she settled down beside him in her new place with the warriors. Bluestar turned her eyes to the dark brown tabby. "Dustpaw, from this moment you will be known as Dustpelt. StarClan honors your bravery and your honesty, and we welcome you as a full warrior of ThunderClan." She touched his head with her muzzle, and he too gave the leader's shoulder a respectful lick before joining the other warriors. The voices of the clan rose in tribute, sending clouds of misty breath into the night air. As one, they chanted the new warrior names. "Sandstorm, Dustpelt, Sandstorm, Dustpelt." "In the tradition of our ancestors," meowed Bluestar, raising her voice, "Sandstorm and Dustpelt must sit in silent vigil until dawn, and guard the camp alone while we sleep. But before they begin their vigil, the clan will share a meal. It has been a long day, and we have reason to be proud of these cats who defended our camp against the rogues. Fireheart, StarClan thanks you for your courage. You are a great warrior, and I am proud to count you as a member of my clan." The cats meowed again. A purr burst from Fireheart's throat as he looked around at his clan. Only Tigerclaw and Dustpelt eyed him with hostility, but for once he felt untouched by their jealousy. Bluestar had praised him, and that was enough. One by one, the cats stepped forward to take some of the fresh kill Tigerclaw's party had brought. Fireheart walked over to Sandstorm. "We can eat together as warriors tonight," he meowed happily. "If that's okay with you," he added. Sandstorm purred at him, and Fireheart felt a little prickle of pleasure. "Choose something for me," she called as Fireheart dashed away to the pile of fresh kill. "I'm starving." Fireheart picked out a mouse for Sandpaw, temptingly plump for so late in Leaf Bear. He took a blue tit for himself and turned to carry his catch back to Sandstorm. Then his heart sank. Dustpelt, Whitestorm, and Darkstripe had joined her. He'd been foolish to expect they would share their meal alone. This was a time for the whole clan to share together in celebration. The thought reminded Fireheart of Cinderpaw. He looked around and realized that he hadn't seen her at the naming ceremony. She must still be in Yellowfang's clearing. He bounded over to Sandstorm and dropped the fresh kill beside her. "I'll be back in 5 rabbit hops," he meowed. "I want to take something to Cinderpaw." "Sure," Sandstorm shrugged. Fireheart quickly collected a vole from the fresh kill pile and carried it across the clearing. He was surprised to see Yellowfang sitting in her den. She'd been at the naming ceremony, so she must have come straight back afterward. "I hope that's not for me," she growled as Fireheart approached. "I've already had my share." Fireheart dropped the vole on the ground. "I brought it for Cinderpaw," he answered. "I thought she might want something. She wasn't at the naming ceremony. I've given her some mouse meat, but you're welcome to give her that as well." Fireheart looked around the fern-shaded clearing. Broken Star's brown fur was just visible through the stems of Patchpelt's old nest. The warrior was not moving. "He's still asleep." Yellowfang's tone was brisk, the voice of a medicine cat rather than a mother. Fireheart couldn't help feeling relieved. He still wanted to believe Yellowfang's loyalties still lay with ThunderClan. He picked up the vole and carried it to Cinderpaw's nest. "Hey, Cinderpaw!" He meowed softly into the bracken. The gray cat stirred and pushed herself to a sitting position. "Fireheart!" Fireheart stepped through the fronds and sat in a small place beside her. He dropped the vole at her paws. "Here," he meowed. "Yellowfang's not the only one trying to fatten you up." "Thanks," Cinderpaw mewed, but she left the vole lying beside her paw and didn't even bend down to sniff it. "Are you still thinking about the battle?" Fireheart asked gently. Cinderpaw shrugged. "I am just a burden, aren't I?" She looked up at Fireheart with sad round eyes. "Who's a burden?" Yellowfang's growl interrupted them as the old gray medicine cat poked her head into the nest. "Are you upsetting my helper?" she meowed at Fireheart. "I don't know how I would have coped today if it hadn't been for this one." She looked warmly at Cinderpaw, her yellow eyes soft. "I even had her mixing herbs this evening." Cinderpaw looked down shyly and dipped her head to take a bite of the vole. "I think I might keep her with me a while longer," Yellowfang went on. "She's becoming more useful every day. Besides, I'm getting used to her company." Cinderpaw glanced up at the old medicine cat, a teasing glint in her eyes. "Only because you're deaf enough to put up with my chattering." Yellowfang pretended to spit crossly at the young cat, and Cinderpaw added to Fireheart. "Well, that's what she keeps telling me, anyway." Fireheart was surprised to feel a pang of envy at the close bond these two cats had developed. He'd always thought of himself as Yellowfang's only real friend in the clan, but now it looks like she had another. But at least Cinderpaw had somewhere to stay. If she couldn't train to be a warrior, she'd feel out of place in the apprentice's den. Fireheart stood up. It was time he went back to Sandstorm. Will you be okay here with Broken-Tail? He asked. Yellowfang gave him a disdainful look. I think we can manage, don't you, Cinderpaw? He wouldn't dare cause trouble, she agreed confidently. And Longtail's here to help. Yellowfang ducked her head out of the nest, and Fireheart squeezed out after her. Bye, Cinderpaw, he called. Bye, and thanks for the food. No problem, he meowed. He turned to Yellowfang. Have you got anything for this bite on my neck? Yellowfang looked closely at his wound. Looks like a nasty one, she growled. It's from Broken-Tail, Fireheart confessed. Yellowfang nodded. Wait there. She padded quickly to her den and returned with a bundle of herbs wrapped in leaves. Can you manage them yourself? Just chew them up and rub the juice into the wounds. It'll sting, but nothing a brave warrior can't handle. Thanks, Yellowfang. Fireheart picked up the bundle in his teeth. Yellowfang led him to the tunnel entrance. I appreciate your coming, she meowed, glancing at Cinderpaw's nest. She was feeling pretty low, I think. She felt bad after the battle, and then the naming ceremony. Fireheart nodded. He understood. He gave a last wary glance at where Broken-Tail lay. You sure you'll be safe? He asked again through the bundle of herbs. He's blind, meowed Yellowfang. She sighed, and then added more brightly. And I'm not that old. Fireheart woke the following morning to find dazzling white light streaming through the den wall. He guessed it had snowed again. At least his wounds had stopped aching. Yellowfang had been right. The herb juice had stung, but he felt much better after a good night's sleep. Fireheart wondered how Sandstorm and Dustpelt had managed their vigil. It must have been bitterly cold in the snow. He got to his paws and stretched his forelegs, arching his back and curling his tail up over his head. ThunderClan's 2 newest warriors were bundled up, fast asleep on the far edge of the den. White Storm must have sent them in when he left on the dawn patrol. Fireheart padded out into the snow-covered clearing. He could just make out Frostfur's white pelt skirting the nursery as she slipped out to stretch her legs. There were 2 bare spots in the center of the clearing, where Sandstorm and Dustpelt had spent the night. Fireheart shivered at the thought, but still he envied them as he remembered the thrill of his first night as a warrior. It had filled him with a warmth not even the hardest frost could have chilled. The sky was thick with snow-heavy clouds. Flakes were still falling, softly and silently. There would be plenty of hunting to do today, Fireheart realized. The clan would need to stock up if the snow was going to get deeper. He heard Bluestar call from the high rock. The clan cats began to creep from their dens and pick their way through the snow to hear their leader's words. Fireheart settled himself into one of the bare spots. It smelled of Sandstorm. He noticed Graystripe sitting on the other side of the clearing, looking tired. Fireheart wondered if he'd slipped out last night to tell Silverstream about the rogue cats. Bluestar began to speak. I wanted to make sure you all know that Brokenstar is in the camp. None of the cats uttered a noise. They knew already. The rumor had spread through the camp like a forest fire. He's blind and harmless. A few cats snorted their displeasure, and Bluestar nodded to acknowledge their fears. I am concerned as you are for the safety of our clan, but StarClan knows we cannot turn him out to die in the forest. Yellowfang will nurse him until his wounds heal. Once they have, we'll discuss this again. Bluestar looked around, listening for voices from the crowd, but no cat spoke, so she leaped down from High Rock. As the cats dispersed, Fireheart noticed that the leader was walking toward him. Fireheart, she meowed, one thing concerns me. You still haven't settled things with Graystripe. I've not seen you eat together for days. I told you before, there's no room for fighting within ThunderClan. I want you to hunt together today. Fireheart nodded. Yes, Bluestar. That was fine by him. And after yesterday's battle, he felt hopeful that Graystripe would like the idea too. As Bluestar walked away, Fireheart scanned the clearing, hoping that Graystripe hadn't disappeared again. No, there he was, helping to clear snow from the nursery entrance. Hey, Graystripe, Fireheart called. Graystripe carried on with his work. Fireheart bounded over to him. Do you want to go hunting this morning? Graystripe turned to face him, his eyes cold. Are you making sure I don't disappear again? He snarled. Fireheart was startled. No, I just thought after yesterday, Clawface... I would have done the same for any ThunderClan cat. That's what clan loyalty is about. Graystripe's meow was harsh with anger as he went back to pushing snow. Fireheart's hopes plummeted. Had he lost his friend's trust forever? He turned away, tail down, and began to trudge through the snow toward the camp entrance. He called over his shoulder. Bluestar told me to go hunting with you this morning, actually, so you can explain to her why you're not coming. Oh, I see. You're just trying to please Bluestar, as usual, Graystripe hissed. Fireheart stopped and whipped around, ready to throw back a retort, but he paused when he saw... that Graystripe was crossing the clearing toward him, shaking snowflakes from his wide shoulders. Come on, then, Graystripe growled, leading the way through the gorse tunnel. It was a slow climb out of the ravine, with the boulders covered in snow. When they reached the top, the icebound forest stretched before them. Graystripe charged away at once, his face set with grim determination. Fireheart followed him. As he tracked a mouse around the roots of an oak tree, he saw Graystripe racing after a rabbit that had been foolish enough to stray from its burrow. Graystripe pelted furiously after the creature until he finished it off with a well-aimed pounce. Fireheart sat and watched as Graystripe padded back to him and dropped the rabbit at Fireheart's paws. That should feed a kid or two, he grunted. You don't have to prove anything to me, Fireheart told him. No, Graystripe answered bitterly. His eyes met Fireheart's, cold and angry. Maybe you should start acting as if you trust me then. He turned away before Fireheart could reply. By sunhigh, Graystripe had caught more than Fireheart, but both cats had done well. They returned to the camp, their jaws heavy with fresh kill. They padded into the clearing and dropped their prey in the usual place. The spot had been empty so far. Fireheart wondered if they should go out again. The snow was heavier now, and a cold wind was beginning to blow through the ravine. Fireheart was studying the darkening sky when he heard Brindleface's worried meow near the nursery. He bounded over to see what was wrong. What's the matter? Have you seen Cloudkit? She demanded. Fireheart shook his head. Is he missing? His paws prickled as Brindleface's rising panic began to infect him. Yes, so are my other kits. I only closed my eyes for a moment. I just woke up and I can't find them anywhere. It's too cold for them to be out. They'll freeze to death. The queen swayed on her paws. Alarm shot through Fireheart as he pictured the last time a young cat had disappeared from the camp. It had been Cinderpaw. Alright guys, so that's going to end off this episode of Warriors Fire and Ice. As always, before I end it off, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. That's it. Bye guys!